that a lot of people in the media immediately went to that and started talking about this hate-filled man about mental health, rather than looking at the very deliberate acts that were taken by him. 6 months of planning, a 120-mile drive, sitting in that church for 1 hour, contemplating what he was going to do. Nothing that suggested that he didn't know the difference between right and wrong. And you and I know that that's the only thing that's going to matter in the courtroom when you talk about legal insanity.
No.
Did he appreciate right from wrong?
He did.
There's nothing to suggest he did not.
I agree.
So why are we talking about mental health instead of racist actions by this man?
Because I would say, and Leanne, I know you've always taken me to task on this one too, I would say he's sick, but as a sick young man, he's expressing something about us. There's some research out. Listen, listen, I'm not saying if he were a different culture, his hatred would have been expressed in a very different way. I'm saying that when people get delusions in this culture, their delusions take a certain form. When people have character pathology, their hatred gets focused in a certain way, and that's about us. And the weakest amongst us are expressing the darkest features of our culture, and that's what I would say. So mental health put aside, what's wrong with us if this comes out through people that are sick?
But Dr. Drew, when you hear about the gang member in South Los Angeles or in the west side of Chicago, we don't hear you talking about that African-American young male and mental health issues. I've not heard those terms attached to them. They talk about thugs, they talk about crime, they talk about the poverty that they grew up in and the sickness, but it's not about a mental health issue. So we've got to change the way we have these conversations if we're going to be fair to everyone involved.
Mike, you hear me all the time. I would call that all mental health, right?
Yeah, well, and also I think that when you're talking about a gang member in a different neighborhood, a lot of times you're talking about, it's part of the culture they're in where they're worried for their own safety. So there's a difference in someone who willingly kills 9 people for no reason and someone who may be concerned for their own safety and is raised in a world that's unfortunately as equally violent on the receiving end as it may be into some of the actions that they're doing. And also, look, there's no doubt in my mind that this young man had a lot of hate in his heart, and he was without question a very racist person. But those things cannot exist mutually exclusive from the idea of also having mental health.
Well, mental health, and you bringing that up when it only seems to apply to white people, as Reva was saying.
I don't say that.
But it's always brought up. And in the media, and we talk about this all the time, the media will go to that first. And what it sounds like is an excuse. Like, oh, he did this because he didn't have control of his mind, or he must have been off. Or it takes anybody who can kill somebody is crazy.
It's crazy.
But that's not mental health. That's not curable.
No, but adjectives are a good thing. Let's go back to how Dr. Drew started this conversation. So if a white person, he said, why can't we have honest conversation about race in this country? White people who are doing the killings in Columbine and Aurora, they are mentally ill. It's different than thugs in inner cities like Baltimore who went out thugging and rioting in the name of, oh, I want justice, social justice, so I'm going to go out and burn down Baltimore, burn down other black homes in the name of social justice. That is thuggery. That is not mental illness.